Wait a minute. Thank you for that. Good evening, members. It's 6:30 and I'm now going to open the meeting of the Planning Committee, the last meeting of 2022. I want to try not to keep you too long tonight with the inclement weather outside. Can't hear you. Apologies. Okay. My name is Michael Lawrence and I'm the chairman of the Planning Committee. People either side of me are now going to introduce themselves for the benefit of those watching online.
I'm Phil Davis, the councillor for Purton Dippens.
I'm Pardip Sharma, the legal advisor to the Planning Committee. Helen Bembo, Development Management Team Manager.
Tom Nutt, Planning Officer, Development Management.
Amanda Willis, Planning Support.
Thank you all. Let's go straight to the first agenda item, which is the minutes of last meeting. Have you all had a chance to see and read the minutes of that meeting? Does anybody want to raise any issues with that? If you can accept them, then there's a record. Thank you very much for that. Thank you. Apologies. You've got apologies, Caroline from. Thank you very much for that. Declarations of interest. Does anybody wish to declare an interest?
Thank you, Chairman. Yes, I'd like to declare an interest in planning application 2200985 FUL, and I'll leave the room.
Okay, let's move on to agenda item number 4, which is the determination of the planning applications. We've got 3 in front of us. The first one is Robin's Nest, and it's 22/00100 FUL. And Helen, if you could just summarise the application for us, please.
Thank you, Chair. This application relates to a farmhouse, 2-storey barn and vacant farm building located within Lower Penn. The proposal is to demolish the farmhouse and farm buildings and erect a detached dwelling and garage. This application follows previous applications which were refused due to the harm to the openness of the greenbelt. The applicant has since established a fallback option through an approval for a change of use of the barn to residential and lawful development certificates confirming potential extensions through the use of permitted development rights. The initial plans submitted were considered to cause greater harm to the greenbelt than this fallback option. Therefore, amended plans were submitted, reducing the height and the floor space of the proposed dwelling. Whilst the proposed dwelling would still be materially larger than which it would replace, very special circumstances exist as to the fallback option would be smaller in size. There is a realistic possibility of the option being implemented, and the proposals represent a more comprehensive development as opposed to the piecemeal fallback option. To make the development acceptable, conditions are proposed to remove permitted development rights in the future, define the garden area, and require that the building is to be demolished are done so to prior the occupation of the new dwelling. No issues have been raised with ecology, highways or from Severn Trent. The Parish Council highlighted that the proposal is an appropriate development and not in keeping with character of the area. However, in this case, very special circumstances do exist, and it is considered that the traditional design and materials are in keeping with the character of the area. No neighbouring comments were received. There are no concerns regarding the impact on neighbouring amenity, highway safety or parking provision. The impact on ecology would be acceptable, subject to conditions securing ecological mitigation and enhancements. It is therefore considered that permission should be granted for the proposed detached dwelling and garage at Robin's Nest Farm. So I'll just flick through some of the photos. I apologise in advance because this has been a bit slow today, so bear with me. So this is the existing farmhouse and the existing building on site, which the one on the right hand side would be demolished in its entirety. So this is the existing farmhouse as it stands currently. And pictures of the wider site when looking across towards the open countryside. And some pictures of the existing barns and outbuildings that currently sit upon the site. All of these would be demolished and replaced with a replacement dwelling, but there have been several approvals for extensions and conversion of the barn into residential, which would create 2 residential units on the property. So what you're considering this evening is just one comprehensive redevelopment of the site. Application is recommended for approval, subject to conditions. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you, Helen. No public speakers. Local member Barry Bond, do you wish to speak on this matter, please?
Chairman. Yes, as you probably gather from the officer's presentation there is quite a checkered history to this in recent times, backwards and forwards. I think, as was said, the proposed dwelling would be rather large, but there are features. There are traditional materials being used. I did note in the officer's report that there will be some arts and craft features on the new building as well, which certainly interests me, so that's okay. As you can see from the photographs as well, there is a certain degree of dereliction about the property as it stands. So I've got no real sort of issues with this. Thank you.
Thank you, Barry. Any other member wish to speak on this? Can't see anybody else. I mean, in the report, we've got the local parish council are probably the only people that are against this application. And I think the reasons they were against have been fully explained in the report. So if we've got no questions, have we got? Go ahead, Councillor Sadler.
Thank you, Chairman. Were the parish council's comments prior to the latest sort of iteration of the plan? Because I think that what's been explained has improved it over the situation that I think they thought they were getting.
Helen, can you answer that one?
Through you, Chair. Absolutely, yes. Comments from the parish council were based on the initial set of plans rather than the amended set of plans that we're considering this evening. That's correct. Thank you.
Thank you for that. Do we wish to go to debate? No, no. Well, we'll go straight forward to make a decision then. All those in favour of this application, please indicate in the normal.
That's unanimous, Chair.
Thank you very much. Application is approved. Thank you, members. We'll now move on to 22/00794 FUL, which is Hillcroft Farm. And we have got a speaker on this. That is, turn my page over. Mr. Richard Walthow. Mr. Walthow, you've got 3 minutes, please.
Is that working? Thank you very much, Mr. Chairman. Good evening then. Thank you for the opportunity to speak as agent acting for the applicant in support of this application. Recognising the officer's proposed recommendation, I would like to briefly highlight certain key points. Firstly, I'd like to note the application before you has followed a rigorous, fully transparent process involving early pre-application discussions with your planning officers over the principle of the development, comprehensive and detailed ecological and structural surveys to help inform the design, full regard to the policy context for local plan and government guidance, and ongoing discussions during the application process to ensure all material considerations have been dealt with, including agreement to pre-commencement conditions. With regards to the proposal itself, this demonstrates compliance with both national and local policies in respect of, Firstly, it's an appropriate development solution which preserves the openness of the green belt. It provides a design solution which would result in an overall visual improvement of the building and would not harm the character of the rural area. It delivers a design which ensures that the historic character and simple quality of the structure and external appearance are retained and is clearly legible as a former agricultural building. Building is structurally sound and is capable of conversion without demolition and rebuilding or substantial reconstruction. The scheme does not cause significant harm to protected species and will incorporate biodiversity features. The design will enable a net gain in biodiversity. The proposal provides a positive approach to sustainable development by making effective and appropriate use of an unused building in the Greenbelt. It provides a proposal that causes no highway safety issues, having a lower trip generation than the existing lawful use, and has no impact upon an existing public right-of-way. It enables reduced impact on neighbouring amenity. It achieves occupier amenity which exceeds your space about dwelling standards, and the design can provide an attractive, functional, accessible, safe, healthy and secure residential environment in a compatible mixed-use setting. It delivers a proposal which secures the future of a historic agricultural building. Finally, it offers a proposal that helps secure the ongoing viability of an agricultural concern. In summary, it is respectfully requested that consideration be given to following your officer's recommendation to approve subject to the conditions proposed. Thank you for your time.
Thank you, Mr. Waltho. Local member. Oh, before I move into that, it was remiss of me. I should have made note of this at the beginning of the application. This application is made by Councillor Robert Reid. Robert is a member of the Planning Committee. He's absent tonight because he's recuperating from an operation. And he's been known to me, and I would imagine the majority of members in this room, for a considerable number of years. I regard him as a colleague, and I suppose over the years he's come to be a friend as well. But I've spent a couple of weeks considering this, and I don't think I needed to make a declaration. I think I can come to the right and correct decision. Although I do, as I say, know Robert Reid quite well. And I don't think, well, no member here has made a declaration tonight in respect of this application. So I am presuming you all feel the same way that I do about it. Kath Perry.
You're on now.
I'm on now. Sorry, that's what I went up for, to note that we all know Robert, and I think it's only right that it should be documented. We do know him, but we've got no pecuniary interest in what he's doing. So I think I'll leave it to you to decide. Thank you.
Thank you for that, Councillor Perry. Does any other member wish to make any comments? No? Okay, let's move on then. We've got one local member, Councillor Mark Evans. Do you wish to speak on this matter?
No, I've got no observations yet.
Thank you. Does anybody else wish to speak? No? No debate?
Summary of the application.
Oh, I've forgotten the summary of the application. Dashing away. No, we'll have a summary of the application just in case. Thank you.
Thank you, Chair. This application relates to a two-storey brick-built farm building that sits within a farmstead at Holcroft Farm, the base for an agricultural holding within Lower Penn. The application proposes to change the use of the building, a former stable, to a single residential dwelling. Minor alterations are proposed externally, including glazing to replace the threshing barn openings, flush fittings, roof lights, and a 1.8 metre high wall to create a private amenity space and separation from the wider agricultural site. Traditional features and materials of the farm building would be retained. The proposed conversion would include the demolition of existing single-storey extensions, which would reduce the size of the building. As a result, the impact on the openness of the green belt would be negligible, and therefore it is considered that the proposed change of use and alterations are in accordance with policy. With regard to the impact on character of the building and wider area, the proposals would secure the future use of the building while retaining its traditional features and legibility as a historic agricultural barn. There are no concerns regarding neighbour amenity or occupier amenity, and conditions are proposed to ensure that a net gain in biodiversity, as well as a degree of detailing with materials, wider landscaping and boundary treatments within the site. One neighbour comment was received regarding who would pay for the repairs to the access road if it should become damaged. However, it should be noted that this is a civil matter and outside the scope of the planning application. It's therefore considered that permission should be granted for the change of use to the farm building to a single residential dwelling at Hillcroft Farm. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you very much for that, Helen. No debate? Oh, yes, go ahead, Councillor.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Just to say, I'm really pleased that the thrashing barn openings are being retained on this building. That really notes the character, the local character of this, and we do need to repurpose many of these things that are not widely used. I think the only thing that's concerning me is about the public access right in and out of the site during the construction period. I'm taking it from what you've said that we're not able to put a condition on that. Okay. And the other thing which the resident has picked up is commented on in 592, which is that this window that overlooks his property and is actually 1.8 metres above the floor level. I don't know whether the neighbour who made this objection has noted that, but certainly it's high enough up to avoid any overlooking. And I wonder if it could be drawn to his attention so that he doesn't feel quite so grieved about the possibility of being overlooked.
Can you just quote the...
Yes, it's 592,
592,
and it's the second sentence in 592. The base of the octagonal section of the window measures approximately 1.8 metres above floor level.
I think you're looking at the wrong application.
Oh, am I? Oh, I beg your pardon. I've turned over to the wrong thing, haven't I? Okay. I did look at the window, and I looked at it on the plans, and I thought it looked high up. Can you just clarify that then? Not done that. No, on this particular. No. Yeah. Okay. Shut up. Sorry.
Yeah, you had me worried for a minute. I thought someone had missed my.
I've turned over too many pages. Okay. I apologise.
Okay. Right. Let's move straight forward to the vote then. And all those in favour of the application, please indicate. Thank you very much. Thank you, members. The application is approved. We'll now move on to the final application, and you're going to leave the room, are you, Victoria? Thank you. Okay, the final application this evening is application number 22/00985/FUL 75 Sitch Lane, Womben. And can you summarise the application for us, please? Thank you.
Thank you, Chair. This application relates to a detached two-storey dwelling set within a large plot within Wombourne development boundary. The application proposes a regularisation and modifications made to a previous permission, which was 21/00038 FUL. It was an application that came before Planning Committee. And this included a two-storey rear extension, two-storey side extension, two-storey front extension, and modifications of the front dormer. One neighbour objection has been received, in particular noting the rear-facing first floor window proposed for the two-storey rear extension, and the potential overlooking to the neighbour's garden. The specific window is the same width window that was previously approved under the previous application. The only difference is the height of the window, so the width is exactly the same. So the increased height will be above 1.8 metres in the room, so therefore there will be no increased overlooking as a result of the bigger window because it's physically too high for someone to look out of. So officers have given this full consideration and it's not found to be materially overlooking the gardens of the neighbouring properties. There are no concerns arising with respect to the street scene, space about dwellings or parking concerns. Subject to several tree-related conditions provided by the senior arboricultural officer, as well as obscure glazing on the western side of the dwelling, it is therefore considered that permission should be granted for the extensions and modifications proposed. So just for clarity, there has been a previous approval for very similar extensions. There's been some deviations from those plans, one of those which includes the window, the size of the window to the rear, and the purpose of the application this evening is to regularise those deviations from the approved plans. But the principle of the extensions has already been established through a previous approval. So the principle of the two-storey rear, side and front has already been established. It's only the deviations that can be given consideration this evening. The previous permission is extant and in place. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you very much, Helen. And again, members, this application is being made by Mr. and Mrs. D. Wilson. Victoria Wilson is a councillor. She's a member of this planning committee. She's made a declaration and she's left the room and she will not take any part in the application debate, etc. We've got Mark Evans, you're the local member.
Chair and members, I've given this some considerable thought, and I am happy to support the application. I take comfort from paragraph 231. The full extent of the proposed development was indicated correctly on the proposed block plan, and any concerns that have been addressed by the conditions that have been suggested. So, Chair, members, I am happy to support the application.
Thank you, Mark. Does any other member wish to ask a question or speak on this matter? Councillor Allen?
I better get it right this time. I apologise. Yes, just to say that noting the building works are already underway and noting this needs regularising and not having an objection to the general design, which seems to fit into the local area. I did notice this objection about the window, which being above most people's heights in this room, 1.8 metres, is for light clearly and not for observation. And I did wonder whether the person who's complained has had that noted, whether he should be informed about that. Otherwise, I have no objection to this application.
Thank you, Councillor Allen. Any other member wish to speak? No. We'll go straight to the vote then. All those in favour of this application, please indicate. Councillor Cox.
Sorry about that, Dominic. Okay, so
Thank you. The application is approved. Thank you very much. We can let Victoria back in, please. Thank you. Okay, members, we'll move on to the last agenda item, which is the monthly update report. And over to you, Helen. Thank you.
Thank you, Chair. Monthly update report since the last committee. In terms of training, we are looking to schedule training as requested by members on the planning balancing exercise and planning enforcement. They'll look to be scheduled in the new year. Any other topics that you do consider necessary for training, please do let me know and I'll make sure they're scheduled in for you. In terms of stats, I'm not going to go over those this evening. There's been no changes since last committee. It will be the January committee where we have the updated figures because it's quarterly reported. In terms of appeal decisions, the report notes that there have been 7. That is a typo. It's 3 appeal decisions since the last report to committee last month. So I'll go over those in turn. So the first was a costs appeal relating to a quashed enforcement notice with an alleged breach of planning control as being, without planning permission, the making of a material change of use of land, the land used for the siting of a caravan with a wooden extension attached to the said caravan, and the siting of a container unit, as well as other alleged breaches associated with domestic development and earth bunds at Willow Farm, Hollies Lane, Pattingham. The inspector, on behalf of the Secretary of State, has decided that a partial award of costs against the council on the grounds of unreasonable behaviour resulted in wasted and unnecessary expense is justified in this particular circumstance. The inspector did, however, note the extent of the award may be limited as the council have since reissued a revised notice on the 2nd of August. This is now live and in place, and therefore it is reasonable to conclude that a certain amount of costs incurred in these appeals are reusable in the new appeals. The amount is still undecided at this stage. That will be forthcoming. The second appeal decision relates to an appeal against a refusal to vary a condition related to the demolition of an outbuilding at Upper West Beach Farm in Nurton Hill Road, Pattingham. The appeal was allowed and the condition varied to now state, with the exception of those shown to be retained on the approved drawing 1271/A001 site location and block plan before the development hereby permitted is first occupied, any building within the red line shown on the aforementioned plan shall be demolished and the materials arising therefore permanently removed from the site. The appeal variation is allowed simply to add the drawing number and is no further amendments made to the condition. The appeal being allowed has, however, been allowed for 3 years, which procedurally is incorrect, and we are looking to seek legal challenge to that condition. And the final appeal decision is an appeal against a refusal for a replacement of a swimming pool marquee with single-storey structure with changing facilities and garden and pool room at Mitten Manor, Penkridge. The appeal was dismissed as the inspector concluded that the proposal would amount to inappropriate development in the Greenbelt and further harm the Greenbelt would be caused as a result of loss of openness. Consequently, very special circumstances necessary to justify an appropriate development in the Greenbelt do not exist. Therefore, the appeal was dismissed. And that's all the appeal decisions made since the last committee. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you. Yes, Penny.
Thank you. Can I just ask, it's very unusual to see unreasonable behaviour in this. What has been characterised as the unreasonable behaviour?
Chair, I can take that. Basically, in relation to appeal costs, the law actually stipulates that where there is unreasonable behaviour on part of an authority, then an award of costs is actually granted. So what is actually deemed as unreasonable behaviour? Unreasonable behaviour can be circumstances where the enforcement notice has to be withdrawn because there is actually some error in the notice, which has actually happened, in this particular case, according to the inspector. And I'll come on to that particular point because, that in our view was debatable. Unreasonable behaviour can also happen in circumstances where a local authority makes a decision to refuse planning permission and then withdraws that reason for refusal. The list does actually go on, but in this particular case, Chair, just through you, that we had a situation where an enforcement notice was actually issued, and the enforcement notice actually omitted some words in relation to the actual use of the land, i.e., the inspector said it should have referred to mixed use as agricultural land, and the inspector also said that it should also there was some discrepancy in the plans. Now, if I can just mention to members that inspectors do actually have very wide powers to actually vary enforcement notices in circumstances where there is no injustice to a party. And those powers are very frequently used. And we have had enforcement notices where inspectors have carried out an amendment to the enforcement notice, inserted some wording, inserted, fresh plans, etc. As I said, the test is that there is no injustice. In this particular case, we did actually provide very strong representations to the inspector and said that in our view, you have powers to actually vary this notice, insert the relevant wording, make an amendment to the relevant plan, and as such, in our view, there is no injustice. Unfortunately, the inspector did not actually accept our representations. We took further advice from council, and the conclusion was simply issue a fresh notice, because the end game, the objective is obviously to get rid of the breach rather than fight this out in the courts. Chair, that's all.
Okay, Penny?
Yes, thank you. I'm quite puzzled by that in legal terms, and I don't know why the inspector didn't amend the notice as you suggest. Perhaps that's a point which we'd like some further instruction about at some time.
Yes, certainly. Outside this room. Thank you. Does any other member wish to comment or ask a question about the report? Well, in that case, I'll draw the committee meeting to a close. And I just say thank you all for your attendance tonight. You've all soldiered here in quite poor conditions outside. It's the last meeting of the planning committee in 2022. I look forward to seeing you all again in 2023. Thank you very much for your time and the work you've put into for the last 12 months. And I hope you come back fit and fresh for the new challenges back in January. All have a safe journey home and a Merry Christmas. Thank you.